All right, everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode this week with the Sappy OVI podcast. Today, I got a very special guest, Marlisse, and she's going to be sharing with us a very brief bit of her experience. I talked to Marlisse about a week or so ago, and we talked about for probably 45 minutes or an hour, and I was just amazed with the experiences and just everything that you've overcame. So, and I asked her, I said, will you please come on and share a little bit about your experience with abuse, traumatic experiences, and substance abuse, and she generously agreed to come on here and talk with us today. So, Marlisse, thank you for your time. Will you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
My name is Marlisse Hardamon. I am a teacher at Springfield City Schools. I'm also an advocate for women who have been sexually assaulted. Based on my experience, I try to do workshops, speak truth to power. I'm a minister, so I kind of do it all. I don't know when I sleep.
Family too is right.
And I have a husband and 5 kids.
Wow. When do you sleep?
I don't know.
8 hours, 5 hours?
Probably 3.
3 hours? Okay, well rested. Sounds good. So, you know, throughout my professional experience in working with men and women, I know that oftentimes when we see somebody who's struggling with substance abuse, we see the substance abuse.
Right.
Right? But then when we start to dive into the whys and the experiences that somebody has been through, what I've learned is that a lot of people, specifically women, right? Mm-hmm. Men and women are different when you're working with them in a professional role. But what I've noticed is that women particularly have a wall built around them, yes. Right? And I know we talked a little bit about that the other day, and I feel like the reason that this wall is built up around some of these women comes from the traumatic experiences they've been through.
And that's true. I found in my own life, as well as when I work with other women, is that you go through so much, and society tells you not to tell, and
right.
Your family tells you not to tell, and the government or the powers that be tell you not to tell. So you end up taking that pain and burying it deep, deep inside of you.
It's not even really tell us, just don't even talk about it.
Right, don't talk
Bury
about
it. Just stuff it away and maybe it'll disappear.
It's supposed to go somewhere, but it does. Mm-hmm. It goes deeper and deeper inside of you, and up grows this weed of hatred and upsetness and violence that you just don't want to share yourself with anyone else because you don't feel like you can trust them.
Right, right. And I know, as you know, my experience as a licensed social worker and as a licensed chemical dependency counselor puts me in different environments where I'm exposed to this type of situation where, okay, Eric, now here's this woman who's been through many different experiences. And to be quite honest, there's some levels to where I feel like I can't connect with this woman because I haven't walked in her shoes. I haven't had her experiences, and it's unrealistic of me to expect her just to start sharing her life story with me, you know? And I feel, and sometimes, and I always ask myself, what can I do to become a better professional or a better helper, whatever situation that may be. So give me a couple tips on how we can approach this situation with somebody to get them to go back and to talk a little bit about their experiences. In fact, if you don't mind, share a little bit with us about a couple instances from your upbringing that got you to where you're at today.
Probably, 2 of the most profound experiences. When I was about 8 years old, or between 6 to 9, my mother was running away from domestic violence. Right. And we went to live with her friend and their family. And I remember on my 8th birthday, might have been, I went up to get ready for bed and run water, and I had evidently forgotten to lock the door, as any 8-year-old would do.
Right.
And I felt someone turning. I could hear someone turning on the handle, and I could feel something different inside of myself. And I went to push on the door, but as I pushed hard to keep them out, they pushed hard to get in. And as a result, the gentleman, the husband, actually came in and he assaulted me sexually, threw me on the ground. I can remember the smell of urine around the base of the toilet as he ripped my innocence from me.
Gosh, I'm so sorry. And this was mom's husband?
And this was mom's best friend's husband.
Oh, gosh.
And since I already knew her situation, my mother's situation, and that she was already running from being physically abused by my father, I didn't tell her. So I just went through years and years of him physically abusing me and sexually abusing me. And at one point, I realized that his wife knew what was going on.
Jeez.
And I thought that, good, somebody's going to come to my rescue. And in fact, when her discussions with him got her nowhere, she turned her anger on me and began to physically make me sit in hind catcher's positions for hours, or I couldn't eat lunch with everyone else. I had to wait until after they ate, and I ate what was left on their plate.
And this is at 8 years old?
At 8 years old, and I think this went on from 8 to 10, so by 10 years old, I was kind of out of it and not really good for anything. But my mother began to work, and she told me, we're moving. And I believe somewhere in the back of her mind, she knew. Because we moved on the other side of town, and we never saw them again. But on my 16th birthday, around that period, I decided that I was going to babysit again for a friend of hers. And when they got in, I was laying on the couch, not provocatively dressed. I was 16,
Right.
And we didn't do Daisy Dukes and all that. My mom was a minister, so we looked appropriate at all times. So with my T-shirt and my shorts on, I was laying there, and I could hear her come in singing. And I could hear her go up the stairs, but I didn't hear him. And I lay there as if I was asleep because something told me, you've been here before.
Right.
And I heard him come in. He came into the living room, turned on the TV, sat there for a few minutes, and I kind of turned over on the other side of the couch and tried to act like I was asleep so I wouldn't have to talk to him.
Right.
And he just sat there. And eventually I did doze off. But when I woke up, it was to a cold breeze. And the house was not cold. And I soon discovered that he had taken all of my clothing off, and I was laying there.
Jesus.
In my bra and underwear. And the first thing he said was, you better not make a sound.
God. And so this is from like 8, and then you're talking like you're 16 now.
Now I'm 16 going
Jesus.
through the second of life traumatic.
Is this the same person, or is this
Actually, this is a different person.
Jeez.
But makes me kind of wonder what kind of friends my mom had because these are all husbands of friends of my mother's. But what I've learned is you can't say who would do what.
Right. You just never know these days.
And you never know.
We say these days, like you can never know these days, but how many years ago was this?
This was, I can't, you can't tell a woman's age. I'm over 40.
This was years ago then,
So this was years ago. So really, you can never say what anybody will do.
Right.
Given the right situation.
So, when I think about a young girl between the age of 8 and 16, like, such a age of innocence, the age of like getting to know yourself in the world and trying to, have different experience, sports and school and like, like Girl Scouts, stuff like that, stuff that kids are supposed to enjoy,
right?
And when I think about somebody going through like this, I think what could you have, like, so let me ask you this. What were some, like, what did you enjoy doing during, like, what was fun for you between 8 and 16?
When I think at 8 and moving away and it just being my mom and my sister and allowed me to do a lot of healing. And I really believe I had some great teachers.
Okay.
And I think that's why I'm a teacher.
Okay. So you love school. Awesome.
But they encouraged me to do the things I really like to do. So I like to talk. And so I would just sit and talk.
Right.
And
So you probably really enjoyed school, I would
Right.
imagine. I mean, when you got to worry about going home and being around all these people.
Right.
I mean, I know that, you know, for folks who have had traumatic experiences, they really enjoy, just like you said, school and the extracurricular stuff they got to do and the things that were associated with school. So,
Right.
so moving, you know, from 16, 17, 18, when you get to that phase in life where, you know, teenagers start experimenting with drugs and alcohol,
Right.
right? Tell us a little bit about your experience with drugs and alcohol early on during that time and how that impacted you at that stage of your life.
After the event when I was 16, life got real dark. I began to experiment with all kinds of drugs. I would get high to go to sleep. And I would try to take something to get up. And it just got worse.
Right.
I'm thankful that I never got hooked.
Right.
But that was only the grace of God.
Right.
Because it was just a dark, dark period. I was game when they say kids say I'm game for anything. I was literally game for anything. Anything that would harm me was exactly what I wanted to do because I didn't see the value. I felt like someone had already ripped that value out.
Right.
And so I said, I'm game for anything, game for any. I would, drink. I would, at 16, you can find people who will buy you anything.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what the unfortunate part of that statement right there is that a lot of people, when they get to that stage where they're like, they realize, wow, drinking makes me feel better. Drugs makes me forget about all this stuff that I've been through. I'm game for anything, right? A lot of people spend their entire lives in that state of mind right there, where they don't care about life. They don't care about anything other than just trying to escape reality and just trying to, on to the next thing,
Right.
And that's where a lot of problems, that's where bad stuff happens,
Right.
just to be honest. That's where bad stuff happens at right there. So you go from 8 to 16 having horrible traumatic experiences, right?
Right.
At 16, 17, start experimenting with drugs and alcohol. So give us a time span of like, how long were you in that I'm game phase of your life?
I have to say, being honest, I was in it for a long, long time. I learned how to be functionally in it because my mother was a minister, because there was a standard. I couldn't say, I'm not going to college. That wasn't an option. So I went to college, and anything still went, just as long as I kept my grades up. I even, sadly enough, got married, and in the beginning part of my marriage, it was still anything goes.
Right.
Now, my husband was not like that. He was very regimented and very boundaries, had lots of boundaries. And I think that's what protected me, was because he set the boundaries, and I knew in order to keep him around, I needed to live within his boundaries.
Wow. Yep. So okay. So you obviously don't live that life today.
No, I don't.
Things have changed now. So how did you break those? You said you never, you say you never became addicted though,
No.
right? Okay. So how did that phase of your life end? Like, how do you go from experimenting with drugs and alcohol for several years, and like, how do you give that up? How do you stop?
Well, you have a lot of good people,
Right.
who are willing to deal with a lot of your mess. and let you know that you can trust them. I think that was when you went back to how do you deal with women who put up those walls.
Yeah.
The first thing to do to get them to pull down that wall is to show them that they can trust you.
Right.
And trust you when they're as ugly as they can be.
Right.
Because, it's easy for people to like us when we look good. But when we're
at
showing
that low
them,
point, yeah.
Yes.
So who was it that helped you?
So when I think back, when we had that conversation, I really began to think back, this wasn't a one-man show. This wasn't a case where I really did it all myself. I was moving towards becoming a minister, and my pastor made me go through the 12-step program.
Awesome.
It was just him and I was as truthful and as ugly as I possibly could be, because healing hurts. It really,
So was your pastor in recovery, or
my pastor was actually a recovering, I believe he did crack, and I'm not sure what other drugs, but he was a recovering addict himself.
Okay,
so maybe I just assumed maybe he saw something that said, I know what she needs. And with him and my husband setting boundaries, and even close friends just listening to me cry and whine, I got to work through that process.
You were blessed, weren't you?
Yes,
you had the
really
good people
was.
in your life. That's good stuff. So, working the 12 steps, that, I mean, I don't know the pastor, but I know for me, like, that's where I found my freedom, was through the 12 steps and through a 12-step fellowship, so naturally, I think that everybody needs to work the 12 steps, because I know how valuable it was for me to identify my powerlessness, my unmanageability, to develop my belief system and a power greater than myself, to go through the inventory process. Like, it was very freeing for me. So I think, God, everybody should benefit from the 12 steps, but not everybody wants to work the 12 steps. So why did you even want to work the 12 steps?
To be honest, because I trusted my pastor.
Yep, trust.
And when he said, this is going to be good for you because you're crazy. I could relate to crazy.
Right.
So when he said that, I was like, he's right. I am crazy. So let me do this, because he's saying it's going to help me not be crazy. And in fact, I agree, whether you do drugs and alcohol or you are just dealing with a lot of trauma and pain that you need to heal from,
yep,
those 12 steps will help.
I 100% agree.
Go, that's it.
Yep.
And begin to work your way out of that hole, out of that darkness.
Yep. So the 12 steps. I mean, I always love to give a shout out to the 12 steps, because I think that I was taught, for me and my belief system, the 12 steps are the solution, right? But I am an addict. I've been clean for almost 10 years, but I know one of anything that makes me feel good or changes the way I feel, and that it's a whole nother spiral that goes out of my brain. But so at this stage of your life, you've already been through a lot. You've already found the coping mechanisms with the alcohol and the drugs. You've then found positive influences, pastor, husband, friends that loved you and cared about you enough to help support you through that craziness.
Yes.
Right. So then you start a normal life, right? You're a normal person now.
I'm a normal person, but I have to be honest that my normal is about 90-80% of what people say are normal. But, and then some days pain still knocks on my door and says, I'm back to visit you. Let me remind you of what you've come out of, because you're really not out of it.
Right.
So I have to do a lot of honest inventorying of my own self and saying, okay, that's too much. I need to pull back and regroup for me.
Yep. So I know later, so after you found your personal freedom from all this stuff that you've been through, right? I know that later on you started to find ways to connect with other people.
Yes.
How did that process begin for you of connecting with people, with other women who have been through what you've been through? How did that happen?
And this is an amazing story. Couple of years ago, maybe even 5 or 10, a woman in Arizona that I met on Facebook sent me a logo for a business called Transformation Speaks.
Yep.
And at that point, I was neither transformed nor did I want to speak. So she just said God told her to give this to me.
Wow.
And I just kept it in a file because I didn't really plan to do anything with it. And one day when I was cleaning out my email, I saw it and it just felt right. And I've been running with it ever since.
Wow. So you actually started writing, correct?
I started writing, writing my story. In fact, that's how I found out that so many women have been through some version of what I've been through.
How did you find that out?
I actually wrote a story because I got hired by an internet magazine, and I really wanted to see if it was an impactful story before I gave it to them and let them, rip it apart. So I took the story, I made 10 copies, and I was going to a women's conference, and I gave it to 10 random people in my church. And the next Sunday I came back, and I want to say about 7 of them, tears in their eyes, like,
wow.
How did you know? I've been through this. This sounded just like me. And so it told me there's a need. You got to speak.
Yeah.
So that's how it started.
So you made the connection with other women in your church that could identify with your background. And I'm sure before they read these stories, when they met you, they probably thought, wow, she's such a nice, loving, caring woman. I can't believe she's been through this same stuff. And then they can relate, like, I've been through it too.
Right.
So then now, not only you are reaching out and helping other people, but you're building connections, right?
Yeah.
In the church, right? Where typically we don't talk about stuff like this.
Right.
You know?
And it's true, we don't. And that's the saddest part.
It is.
A lot of women are sitting in churches, not just women, but men I want to include because I believe
does happen.
it's 2 out of every 6 men are sexually assaulted before they hit 18.
Wow.
So they're sitting in churches and they're yelling in their spirit, hey, I need help.
Right.
And no one's answering the call because we don't want to talk about it. It's not pretty. It usually takes a while. You need a lot of holding hands.
Yep.
And we don't want to do that. We want a quick fix and then on to the next thing.
Yep. So it definitely doesn't discriminate, right? And anybody can have a traumatic experience.
Right.
Anybody can experience abuse. Anybody can experience the substance abuse and all that stuff that you went through yourself. So you went through a phase where, okay, wow, my experiences are helping people. I'm building connections, right?
Right.
Then I think something came alive inside of you, and you've really been trying to move down that path ever since.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, you've got involved with Project Woman. Is that correct?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
The first group of people that I went to was Project Woman, and I'm really not sure why. But we sat down and we had a discussion, and Nisi, who works with the community, called me up and she says, I have something for you, and I want you to go with me to the State House. And I went with her and shared my story with those legislatures, and they ended up passing some increased budgeting for victimization because I just said it. This is how it is. This is.
And they've probably
really
never even heard stories like that before, you know? And it's like, and that is how change happens right there. You know, so you doing your thing, somebody seeing something inside of you, making that connection to say, wow, we need to get her in front of the legislatures and all these other people too, because we need help. And then that happens, and then bam, now thousands of people are probably being served because of you sharing your experience, you sharing your story. I mean, that is how resources become available like that.
Yes.
Man, that's good stuff. Like, so are you still involved with Project Women, or?
For a matter of fact, they nominated me, or I can't, it's not even nomination because it's already true. They gave me an award for Advocate of the Year.
Advocate of the Year?
It was it's called the Chrysalis Award, and I was like, me, because I'm not doing it for accolades. I'm doing it because the truth hurts.
Yeah.
And if I can get through, I can give someone else hope.
Absolutely.
Because you can look at me and say, she made it. And if she can make it, there's nothing special about her. Wow. I can make it too.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. Let's say there's a woman or a man who has been through a similar experience like you, and maybe they're in that phase of their life where they're ready to reach out and ask for help. They don't know how. What would you say to that woman who's ready to ask for help, but doesn't yet trust anybody, doesn't believe in herself, just has all these thoughts and this crap that she's got to deal with? What would you say to that woman?
First, I would say journal.
Journal.
Write it down, because when you write it down, you get it out. So even if you never show anyone, you get it out of you onto a piece of paper, and you can close the book on it. I would say, believe me, this is not the end. Know that you can make it. And you got to trust somebody. And you might choose the person to trust, and they might be the wrong person. That's just the reality. Yep. But you keep looking, because I can guarantee you that if you keep looking for someone to believe in you, you'll find them. I'm here. If you don't have anyone else to talk to, I have a website. I have an email. I'm on Facebook.
Yes.
I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. And if you reach out to me, I'm going to reach back. And I know how it feels to be lost. And I know how it feels to be in the dark. And I just want you to have a better life. So you can, if you can't trust anybody else or find anybody else, you can always trust me.
Wow, man, that's good. That right there is what I wanted you to say today. That was it. That was perfect, you know. And I think that message will resonate with somebody, you know. And so what I'm going to do is on this video, I'm going to comment all of your contact info underneath the video. That way, if anyone sees this and wants to reach out to you or wants to talk more on an individual level, bam, they know exactly how to get a hold of you.
And I'm here.
Still doing your thing.
Just doing my thing.
That's right. Good stuff.
It's painful, pain with a purpose. Pain. Everybody's got pain, but everybody's got purpose.
Let me ask you this. Last question.
Okay.
What's your big goal in life right now?
My big goal in life is to really do what I'm doing. It doesn't sound right, but to do what I'm doing and do it full time, to extend myself to as many people, to help them heal as I can, to speak truth to power.
There it is.
And to keep speaking it until something changes.
Wow. Man.
So that's my big dream.
You're going to make that happen. It probably a lot faster than you think. It's the scary thing is the changes that will take place in between now and then. You know, it'll be a crazy ride. But you know, I just want to say thank you again for taking the time out to come over here and talk with us today. Thank you for sitting down with me at the coffee shop the other day and just sharing because we didn't know each other, and here you just opened up and just became vulnerable and just shared with me that this is what you want to do, and came here again today and shared with everybody that's going to watch this video. And I just want to say thank you for everything that you do. Well, we need more people like you, and we need these voices to be heard, because people need help. They need to know that it's possible. That's where it's at.
And they do. And what you do is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, because you're doing the same. You're taking your tragedy and you're making triumph.
That's what it's about.
People are better because you're willing to share.
Same with you.
The pain.
Same with you. When we find a solution or we find the way out, there's just something that comes alive inside of you, and you just want to give that away to everybody that could be suffering or hurting from something that you've been through. Because, just as I know what it feels like to be a drug addict, addicted to drugs, not feeling any hope to find a way out, and then to find that way out and to experience what that feels like. I say all the time, I have everything in my life that I've ever wanted.
I can agree.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I used to dream about the things that I'm doing today. And it's like right now, today, I am doing everything that I've ever wanted to do, and it feels so good. And I want nothing more than for everybody else to just believe in themselves enough to take that step in that right direction. Right. And with you going all the stuff that you have been through and stand here today and share with folks that you can too get better. And here's how to get a hold. I mean, that's where it's at. So I thank you again for coming on and talking with us today. Thank you again to everybody that watches this video. If you learned something from this video or something touched you, I want you to comment below, and I want you to help others resonate with what helped you out. And if you could, reach out and definitely say thank you.
Yes, please. And, in April is Child Abuse and Sexual Assault Month. And we're going to have a rally downtown. And you are welcome to come.
Awesome.
You are welcome if you want to get involved, whatever you want to do. You're welcome.
You let me know. I'm going to be there.
I definitely will do that.
All right. Well, we're going to sign off, folks. So thank everybody for tuning in. We will talk to you next time. Have a wonderful day.